Welcome everybody to what's becoming the Reeve Foundation's Wednesday webcast. I am Rob Girth. I'm the Director of Digital Media here at the Christopher and Dana Reeve Foundation, and today we're going to be talking about I know what we're going to be talking about, I swear. Active outdoor adventures, too much alliteration for me, for all abilities. Our expert today is Sarah Milligan Toffler, and she is the Associate Director of Wilderness Inquiry. And just a couple housekeeping things before we get started with Sarah, and that is if you want to ask questions, feel free to use the chat. It's in the bottom of your screen there, bottom left of your screen. Just use the chat feature, and we'll be able to answer questions as we go if they're appropriate to what we're doing. Otherwise, we'll hold them to the end, and we'll do them at the end. And all the other thing I want to let you know is this is being recorded, and we will be archiving this. And actually, it'll be at christopherreeve.org/webcast. Within 24 hours, it'll be up there. So, with no further ado, let me introduce you to Sarah. And go ahead, Sarah. Why don't you take it away?
Great. Thanks, Rob. Well, good afternoon, everyone. I'm just delighted to be here and want to thank the Christopher Reeve Foundation for hosting these webinars, Christopher and Dana Reeve Foundation. And as Rob said, I am the Associate Director with Wilderness Inquiry. I've had the great pleasure of working here for the past 22 years. And just let you know quickly that our mission is really to make the outdoors accessible to people of all ages, backgrounds, and abilities. And I'm really proud to say that we've served over 300,000 people since we have started back in 1978, and really have some great outdoor inclusive adventures, which I'll share more information about later on. I am going to do a couple of polls today, and so if you could each take a minute and fill this out just to let me know why you're on the call today. And I'm going to be doing a couple of these throughout, and we'll see how it goes. And I look forward to hearing from you all throughout this presentation. So I'm going to go to the results. Looks like people haven't answered yet. If you can, that would be great. If not, I can. Does it take a minute, Rob, for things to come through? Okay, people are here for other reasons.
People are just shy, that's all.
Well, I hope I hit your reasons as I go along here. And feel free to type questions into the chat if I am not hitting what you're listening in to hear. Really, my purpose today is to share information about how people with spinal cord injuries can fully participate in outdoor adventure activities. And I hope you go away with a couple of things. First, I hope to be inspired to try something that you haven't before. And two, that you go away with some ideas and resources for how to pursue outdoor adventures for yourself or your family. Or a family member who has a spinal cord injury. And I just would start by saying that in Wilderness Inquiry's experience, adaptation is really the key to making outdoor adventure accessible. And we find that this is really true for everyone, not just people with disabilities, but really for everyone. And in this photo, this woman, and yes, I'd love to say that this photo is breaking several stereotypes. Most people assume this is a man. This is actually a woman rappelling down a cliff over the Snowy River in Australia. And I'll just mention that Erin actually didn't need any different equipment than the non-disabled climbers that were on this trip used. We just had to use it a little differently to secure her chair. And my point in that is to say that adaptations are often simpler than we think they might be. So hopefully that is good news for people. And I want to share a quick story that kind of further illustrates that point about adaptation. This is a picture of a woman named Lynette who, along with her daughter and husband, went on a Yellowstone trip a couple years ago with us. And it was her first wilderness trip since her spinal cord injury, and she really had some serious reservations about how it would all work. And on the trip, she actually found that she could do a lot more than she thought she could do at the outset. And what she said to us afterwards was, and these are her words, what I realized was that I wasn't the only one thinking about the challenges, like how to get my wheelchair over a fallen tree. There was a whole think tank working with me. And so, and then she went on to talk about kind of the enthusiasm that others on the trip provided that really helped her to challenge herself And she said that she was a Marine, and she said that WI should adapt the unofficial U.S. Marine Corps motto of improvise, adapt, and overcome. And I just would put that out there that I think we all can use that if we improvise, adapt, and overcome, there's really not anything we can't do. So, a few key lessons from Lynette: teamwork makes a difference. You don't have to solve all the problems yourself. Creativity and a positive attitude, and then paying it forward. One of the things that Lynette has done is actually spent a lot of time talking to other individuals with spinal cord injuries to tell them about her experience and how they can benefit and do these things like she did. Here are two other good examples, I think, of some non-traditional adaptation. Here on the left is a picture of Margot and Steve going up a kind of a rocky path there in the Boundary Waters. And Margot needed a little push to get up that hill, and Steve needed a little bit of stability and balance to get up. And boy, they work together, and they get across that portage trail just fine. So no special equipment needed there, just them working together. And that's really kind of the story in the picture on the right there too. There was a great lookout up this cliff, and the whole group was going to go up there and look at it. And they just figured out how to do it using the skills and strengths of everyone in the group. But I would say that wilderness inquiry certainly does use more traditional adaptations, such as these canoe seats that you'll see here. And we use a variety of different kinds of seats because people obviously have different needs and different kinds of supports and things that they would need to be able to do an activity like canoeing. And one of the most common things that we use is that seat that you see there in the front, which is just a Coleman canoe seat that you can buy in any outdoor store. And with a little extra padding for, I would say, the large majority of people with spinal cord injuries, that provides all the stability that someone needs. So you really don't necessarily need to spend a lot of money and have really fancy equipment to make this happen. Well, there we go. This is a canoe seat that was developed by a company called Blue Sky Designs, and I'll provide information on their website and how you can contact them at the end of this presentation. This is a little bit more of a high-tech canoe seat, and we find that that works very well, particularly for individuals maybe who have quadriplegia and maybe need more stability and balance. And here's a picture of our friend Jim using the seat. He's happy as a clam, and this is a group out on the water, so it's a great seat. We also developed this piece of adaptive equipment. We call it a rickshaw, and in essence, it's two poles hooked by racks onto a wheelchair and hooked onto a strap, and voila, it turns this wheelchair into kind of a rickshaw that can really get across any portage trail, any rocky path. And here's a picture of Tom out on the trail and enjoying his wilderness trip. And this is, again, kind of an example of the kind of things that you can do that are very simple, not expensive, and oftentimes people can make these on their own. We do have designs for this rickshaw, which if anyone is interested in that, they can let me know that and send me their information, and we can send you the kind of the pattern for how to make these. And with that, we're going to do another poll. I'm wondering if anyone out there could see using any of the adaptive equipment highlighted in this last section, if that's the kind of information you're all looking for. And I'll skip to the results here. Okay, so people could see using it sometimes. That's great. That's wonderful. All right. And there's another example of someone using the rickshaw out on the beach. what I want to talk about next is really more an approach to adaptation that I hope will be useful to people both in planning outdoor recreation activities, but really I think it can apply to anything that you want to do. And we call it the Universal Program Participation Model. And when we think about any outdoor adventure activity, we think about the environment, where we're going, the activity, is it canoeing, kayaking, hiking, the group makeup or participants, what are their abilities, and what resources do we have. So with the environment, what is the environment we're going to? Is it remote? How difficult are the conditions? Are there accessible paths, or where we need to plan for other means of getting people from point A to point B? These factors help us determine the level of modification that might need to be made. We look at the activity. We break it down into functional components. Rather than saying something is accessible or not accessible, we ask what skills are required. For instance, with kayaking, a person needs to be able to sit upright in a kayak for up to 4 hours. They need to be able to hold a kayak paddle, those kinds of things. The participants, we also look at the strengths and abilities of the whole group. If one person is not able to navigate, there may be someone else in the group who can. And we also feel that self-knowledge is a big piece. Are the people involved aware of their own abilities and limitations? And do they believe that they can do the activity? How's their attitude? And finally, we look at, that isn't quite where I wanted that. I'll come back to that. The resources. We look at, we often say anyone can get to the top of Mount Everest with enough money to pay for a helicopter to get them there. But most of us are, looking at other resource factors as well, such as adaptive equipment and what kinds of training or support might they need. So if you kind of bring this all together, you can see that to make really any activity accessible, you assess where you are on each of these factors and make adjustments as needed. So for instance, if the environment is very remote and the activity is difficult, you may need to have more resources and participants to make the activity accessible. So it really is just kind of, if you sort of plot out your activity there, you can sort of figure out what modifications you may need. So we really feel that the environment is really only part of that equation. There are no inaccessible environments. We just may need to be creative and on how to make it work. So I will now go back to this poll if I can figure out how to do that here, and ask if anyone could see that program participation model being something that they could see using in planning outdoor adventure activities. Okay, we'll skip to results. Sometimes, okay, good. That's better than never. So now I am going to skip here to the resources section, and I want to provide everyone. Here is a listing. Got to go back. Here is a listing of organizations that I am aware of that are providing adaptive adventure programming throughout the country that people could take advantage of. And Rob, will people have access? Are they able to click on this right now, or will they get this slide so that they get this information?
Yeah, when the recording will have the slide in it, and yeah, they should be able to click on it right now as well.
Okay, okay. And I've tried to break it up sort of by region. I think a lot of these places provide things throughout the country, such as Wilderness Inquiry does. We're based in Minneapolis, but we certainly provide trips all over the U.S. and the world. And then these other organizations also provide great opportunities to get folks outdoors. And then in regard to some of the adaptive equipment resources, the things that I talked about, You can certainly email me, and I'd be happy to send you information about the rickshaw, the hiking piece of equipment. But here are some other resources that you might want to take advantage of. Blue Sky Designs, and Diana Goodwin does a lot with adaptive canoeing, and her email and phone number is there. She's a great person. Janet Zeller has a lot of resources through the Forest Service and their work to get people out onto federal lands, and is a terrific resource there. And then this Invacare Foundation is a great resource with just a wide variety of different adaptive equipment that people could take advantage of. And one other resource, I know that there are a number of scholarship resources out there for people for whom financial resources are an issue in terms of participating in some of these activities. Wilderness Inquiry specifically, and I wanted just to alert people to this opportunity, has a grant from the Craig Nielsen Foundation to provide scholarships for individuals with spinal cord injuries. And the information is here on that scholarship, and then a link to our trips. And if this is of interest to you, I really encourage you to apply for one of our trips. Let us know that you're interested in a scholarship through this grant, and we'd love to get you out on one of our great trips in 2013. And boy, I sort of zoomed right through.
That was excellent.
30 slides pretty quickly. So I am happy to open it now to questions, or if there was additional information that people were looking for, we've got time here to for me to take those questions.
And the other thing I think we'll try, since we did move so quickly, Lena, can you unmute everyone? So anybody who actually called on so there's two ways to hear the audio. One was just to connect through your computer and be listening through your computer. But if you actually dialed the dial-up line, we will unmute the phone lines and let you be in control of the mute and unmute. And Lena will tell us how to do that, won't you? That's our operator.
Thank you. The lines are now open.
And how do we mute and unmute?
To mute, it's 6-3, and to unmute, 6-6.
6-6 is unmute. So if anybody did call, and 6-3 is to mute again, so make sure you mute again so we don't hear your dog barking in the background. So if you called in the phone line and you want to unmute and ask a question, you're welcome to do that. You're also welcome to put it on the chat if you want to just put your question into the chat. And when you type it in the chat, you just need to select who you're sending it to, and you can broadcast it to all of us. And I'll ask a question in the meantime, just so I'm clear. So can I call you and you can help me plan an adventure, or you have adventures pre-scheduled that you're signing people up for? Explain that to me.
So in Wilderness Inquiry's case, we offer our own adventure trips that we get people out on. We certainly do offer trainings for different organizations as well on how to do these kinds of things. We don't really do a lot of working with people individually on figuring out how to do something, but if somebody has a quick question or wondering how to do something, we're always happy to answer those kind of questions as well. But that isn't the main kind of service that we offer.
And how many trips a year are you guys planning?
About 350.
No.
Yeah.
Really? And tell me about the range of them.
Well, we do everything from day trips on the Mississippi River, the Harlem River, the Ohio River, to multi-day trips in Tanzania, in Kenya, and Belize. We do a lot in our national parks here in the States, Yellowstone, Glacier, Everglades. We go Forest Service, Boundary Waters, We have a big program up in on the South Shore of Lake Superior, a sea kayaking program in the Apostle Islands, which is just fantastic. And actually, sea kayaking is just by its nature a very accessible kind of activity because we use these big sea kayaks. They seat up to 3 people. And once you're out on the water, a mobility impairment is really not any kind of barrier at all. And because it's the big lake, you're not portaging and having to get in and out of a boat that often. So it's just a great activity and just some spectacular scenery. And if you've never seen that part of the world, it's a place to see for sure.
And do you have, it sounds like there are some standing sort of things that you always have available or have on a regular basis. Is that like the sea kayaking is always there? It's something you're doing on a regular basis? Is that?
That's correct. And we, if you go right to our website, all of our trips are listed there with great photos and lots of information about what you would do, what the itineraries are, that sort of thing. And then we certainly work with groups to design custom adventures. We work with all different kinds of groups, school groups, just all different kinds of community groups, family groups, et cetera, to plan a trip that would be kind of customized to them.
So you would work with anything from a church group even to like the Reeve Foundation. If we called you and said, hey, we want to plan a trip for X amount of people and we want it to be this water or in another land or some kind of mountain adventure, you guys could put that together for us.
Absolutely. We'd love to. Yep.
That's
and
cool.
That picture that you're looking at right there on the screen is in Norway, in the Lofoten Islands. And that was in the fjords there. I didn't go on that trip, but I heard it was terrific. And there was a person with a spinal cord injury that went on that trip.
And tell me a little bit about that. What is the range of the kind of people that you deal with, like the range of disabilities that you deal with?
Yeah, well, that's a great question. So it really does, our mission, as I mentioned before, is really all about inclusion and making the outdoors accessible to everyone. So the range of people that we serve runs the gamut. We serve a lot of folks with with physical disabilities, whether that's something that was acquired or something that they were born with. And really within that, the whole range of, people with spinal cord injuries who can walk and people who, have a very high injury and really need kind of full support, and folks can participate fully, whatever their ability level. We also serve individuals with sensory disabilities, deafness, blindness. In some cases, both deafness and blindness. Serve a lot of folks with emotional disabilities and mental illness. A lot of folks with TBI, traumatic brain injury, and then folks with cognitive and intellectual disabilities. And what we really look for is we really do use a strengths model of what can people do. Everyone contributes what they can to the trip, and by really focusing on the strengths of everyone in the group, as a group, people are able to complete the whole trip. It's really not about an individual sort of accomplishment on a wilderness inquiry trip. So. And I would assume that that's the way it is for a lot of these other organizations that are out there as well.
Do people normally bring their caregiver with them, or is that part of the deal? Is like, well, everybody has to bring their caregiver or a caregiver, or how does that work?
Well, It works in a variety of different ways. A lot of people are more comfortable with someone that they know if they're going to go out on a 5-day wilderness adventure. But some people would rather get away from all of that, and so we work to we have folks that sign up to provide assistance as needed. I would say that actually in most cases, very rarely do people need a personal care attendant to go along. Sometimes they might just need a little extra help, getting to the bathroom or getting dressed in the morning or eating or something like that. And so we have interns and other folks like that go along as what we call really a trip assistant, just to jump in and help where needed, but not necessarily to trail around after somebody. It's really just to help make that experience something where the individual feels like they're fully participating and part of the group, and we help to provide that kind of support for folks.
That's very cool. That's very exciting. Can I just ask a little bit more about your first picture, the woman going up the mountain, or down the mountain, I guess.
Down.
That to me is that just looks impossible. Is that typical of the kind of adventures, or?
We don't do, I will say that we don't do a ton of rock climbing as an organization, but it's a great image because it shows really what's possible. In fact, the story behind that is that our executive director and founder was on that trip, and he is not a person who likes heights at all. So he was hoping to get out of this whole deal. So he was actually a little bit more afraid of the whole thing than Aaron was. And again, it really and he's a big guy, and so getting him all hooked up in there in some ways was harder than getting Aaron. It was just getting the ropes right. So to make sure that she was secure and not going to just go careening down the mountain. But and her wheel did go into a little crevice, and she kind of bounced around a little bit, but she was fine. And then she just kind of wheeled herself down, and it's the same way you would belay yourself down if you were using your legs. So it looks in some ways a little more difficult than it really was in reality.
I'm just gonna put that picture back up on the screen there, just because I love it so much.
Oh yeah.
And what would you say is the other than this the most what would be the word I'd want to use, the thing that was the most exotic or difficult kind of trip you've taken somebody on or some group on?
Well, exotic maybe. We did a trip in Kenya, I believe. I'm trying to remember if it was Kenya or Tanzania. I was not on the trip, but I think it was Kenya. And when we go to Kenya, we are always we have staff members who live there, and so we're always invited into a local village of Maasai. And in this particular village, they had never seen a wheelchair before. And so there was a woman on the trip. She actually had MS, or has MS. And interestingly to me, she could not find an outfitter that would take her on a safari, which to me is weird. I don't even get it, because she, very capable, very able to do the trip. She just used a wheelchair. And so it was very cool when she came into the village. Of course, it was the children that went running up to her like, what in the world is this thing? And they were climbing all over it and asking her questions about it. And kind of through translators, we're sort of figuring this out. And there are these fantastic pictures where apparently she had said to the kids, hey, if you push me up that hill, I'll give you rides down. And so there are these pictures of these kids on her lap, kind of whooping it up. And but it was very interesting, I think, for the elders in that community to see a person with a disability, fully participating in all of the activities, and they were very interested in what that whole piece was about, and how how a person would use something like a wheelchair to keep living life actively. So that was pretty exotic. And we do a 28-day wilderness trip up in the Yukon, which is very intense, and certainly had folks with spinal cord injuries participate on those trips. Let's see what else. Hawaii is been a great trip that a lot of people have enjoyed, and I would encourage folks to check out our website again for all of the trips that we do have available. We've got just a large number.
Getting your slide. That's not it. Here's your scholarship.
Oh, it was back on that last slide that you were on. This is the scholarship page. But if you want to go, if I click on that, can I get? They'll be able to see. Yeah, I'll get it right here.
There we go.
So it's right here. Is that a live link? No, it doesn't look. I don't know if that's. Yeah, so that's the link right there to our website, wildernessinquiry.org.
Excellent.
And I would say too, one thing I'll mention, I guess, is that we do have family trips. And a lot of times what we hear from folks is that, particularly if someone has a child with a disability, the family together doesn't take trips like this. There might, the child with a disability might go to a camp that's for kids with their particular disability, and then the rest of the family goes off elsewhere. And so what we offer as an opportunity is for families to travel together and have those kinds of experiences together as a family. And that would be true whether it's the parent or the child that has a disability. And we do offer, again, trips to Yellowstone, the Apostle Islands, Custer. This year we're offering a new trip out to Glacier National Park, Itasca State Park, a number of places like that, the Boundary Waters, for families to participate together and share these kinds of experiences. And what we find too is that once folks go out and do it and do it with the assistance of a group like ours, they learn what they need to know to continue doing those kinds of activities on their own. Which sometimes can feel daunting to folks to figure out how they're going to make all those adaptations really work.
That's wonderful. Well, we'll give one last chance for anybody to ask any questions if they want to either unmute their phone or if by hitting 66, or if they want to do a question in the chat, which I'm assuming someone would have by now if they were going to. So Sarah, this has been wonderful. I mean, truly enlightening and amazing. The options that you're offering people are just incredible. So thank you so much for being with us.
Well,
absolutely.
And thanks for the opportunity. And yeah, thanks everybody for participating. And I will say that if you have any questions after this, feel free to email me. I'm just Sarah at wildernessinquiry.org. That's SARAH at wildernessinquiry.org. And I would love to hear from any one of you.
Thanks so much. Thanks everybody for joining us.
Perfect. Thanks. Bye-bye.